Okay, as I promised, I'm gonna try to make this as short as possible because hopefully this will be a popular video. Probably over a year ago when I first started YouTube, I made a video, and y'all can go back and watch it if you want to. But I compared the Tornador Classic against the Tornador Black, and I came to the conclusion at the end of that the Tornador Classic was better, just in every way. And I tested it a lot of different ways before making that video, and every time the Classic just performed better. And I'll probably get into some of the reasons in this video if you don't want to go back and watch that one. And now that black that I had back then, that Tornador black I had back then, I sent that back, and so this is a completely different one, because if I was going to retest this, I'd certainly wanted to get another one and you know, give it another chance, because like I said, if the Tornador Black was what they advertise it to be, and it was indeed better than the Classic, then I would be all about it, and I'd be fine, you know, even if they function differently, which they definitely do. I'd be fine with having both, as long as, you know, the Black had some advantage over the Classic. Now, I don't know if they still advertise this, but they did when the Black came out, and they said that the Black, I believe they said you could use a smaller air compressor to power the Black than the Classic, and they were saying, pretty sure they said that it used less air in their advertisement than the Classic. Well, I found that to be the complete opposite back then and once again. And I've got a bigger air compressor this time in my shop here than I did in the last video in my mobile setup. But even my 21 gallon in my mobile setup, central pneumatic compressor, will run this Classic all day long at 90 psi just fine. But it would not run the Black for more than a couple minutes before it would fall below 90 psi. And now, you know, with this compressor here, it does put out more CFMs, SCFM, and so it will, you know, power this Black longer. But, you know, that's kind of besides my point. Is in their advertisement they said the Black could use a smaller air compressor. You know, that's not the biggest deal. Like I said, performance is what I'm most interested in. And so now this Classic is over a year old. It's probably the one that I had in my original video. However, I just put a new cone, which this is a aftermarket cone. I don't know if you can see in there, but this is a stainless steel lining, where it originally came with just a white plastic, and it was plastic all inside. And so these, you know, this tube, this weighted tube, ends up wearing grooves into that plastic and makes it rough, and so, you know, that's resistance. Whereas this stays perfectly smooth, and so not only will the cone last longer, but the weighted tube here will last much longer as well. But the weighted tube also is brand new. I wanted to replace the cone and the weighted tube if I was going to make this comparison. So, you know, what I'm getting at is by adding this cone on, you get that bigger advantage, where, because that's supposed to be one of the bigger advantages to the Black, is the new design. This does not make contact with the cone, and so therefore, you know, you're not having to replace that weighted tube and cone like you are on this one. But if you get this cone, because my other one is just fine, but I just wanted to do this for this comparison, but you get this cone and you should be good. And, you know, yeah, you'll have, but even my weighted tube was still fine, and I believe that's because I put this aftermarket cone on with this stainless steel lining. Well, like I said, I wanted to go ahead and put new on to make it more fair. one big difference I do want to say before I forget is when you're shooting liquid out, you know, when you've got your valve up and it's shooting liquid out, which in this case, by the way, this is O&R, optimum no rinse, and I've gotten both these. But anyhow, when you're shooting liquid, the black here puts out way more liquid than the classic does. And really, for me, in pretty much every situation, I don't want that much liquid. I mean, it puts out quite a bit more, probably double, maybe triple, honestly, than the classic does. Well, I'm going to say there are certain situations, very rare, where, you know, I would like the classic to, you know, for you to be able to meter it. That would be really cool if they made that where you could adjust how much liquid. That would be cool. But as far as it, you know, you not being able to control it and it putting that much liquid out all the time, I just find, for me especially, is a disadvantage, because that's one of the big things I like about the classic, is because it puts out just a fine mist that, you know, if I'm doing headliners or, you know, even seats or something where I don't want to just flood it and get it soaking wet, but still be able to clean it and it do its thing, the classic is just much better for that. So what I'm going to show y'all real quick before I forget. Now, this is a smoker's vehicle. I'm doing the interior on it. And so, if you know, these headliners, you can see, well, you can see where, you know, it kind of starts, and that's, you know, from the smoke. But surely y'all can see this area right here that's noticeably different, you know, cleaner, you could say, or, you know, lighter than pretty much everywhere else. That was done with the classic. But here's the kicker. Right in here, and I don't think it's showing up, it's not really showing up on camera. Yeah, you kind of can see it. Let me figure out something to do with this light. Okay, so starting like right in here, and it goes up, and it was pretty much, you know, to the side close to this one, I used the black in the same way, you know, same 90 psi, you know, everything the same, and I was using the liquid, so, you know, therefore the black does put out quite a bit more, and I did it the same amount of time and same passes, which wasn't long at all. Now this is the next day. I wanted to give it time to, you know, fully dry, so, you know, we could see the true results, and so we've got that now. But even, you know, instantly you could tell that the classic had just outperformed the black in this situation. Like I said, I've done a bunch of them, different situations, different materials, everything, and the classic just keeps beating it. And I know there's guys that'll, you know, like on my last video, will, you know, leave comments, and like, I think, you know, somebody or a couple people said something, you know, like I don't have a big enough air compressor, which, you know, that was obvious. Yes, that's true in the last round. This one is fine, but like I said, my original point was they advertised that this was supposed to take less air, that you could run a smaller compressor than this one. So, you know, that was kind of my point. It wasn't that if my air compressor was big enough to run that continuously, then according to them, it should be big enough to run the black as well. But like I said, this one is enough, and so that no longer is an excuse as far as performance goes on that. But let's see, what else? So what I want to say is, and I think on my old video, I might have touched on it. I know I was doing a format in my old video, and, you know, I've done a lot of different formats with, well, with the classic especially, but with both I've tested them. And the classic, and it's not just with formats, but it literally, it's kind of weird because you're shooting, you know, you're using compressed air, so it's shooting pressurized air towards it, but from the true, you know, tornado action that that the Classic, because it's, you know, it's a completely different design. I mean, the way that this actually, this weighted tube, and it's weighted in specific areas, the way that it does go all the way around is quite different from this. I mean, it really is a completely different design, and in theory I think it's great, but real world performance, it just it's just not the same. You can tell it's a completely different tool than the Classic in performance. But what I was getting at is the Classic, even though you're shooting compressed air at this format, because, you know, that tornado effect or whatever, it's pulling stuff out. I mean, you know, you might look at this as a disadvantage, but, you know, my shirt would be, and it's not right now, but it would be covered in dirt. If it was a real dirty format, this thing would just keep on pulling stuff out. And keep in mind, these are formats that had already been vacuumed, you know, pretty well, and then I would come, you know, behind that with this, and it was just crazy, the stuff that it would keep on pulling out, and how much cleaner it would get these formats. And it'll do the same with, you know, carpet and you know, the headliner, similar kind of deal. But my point is that this does something that does not do, and this does not create that effect. You know, it'll agitate and kind of break stuff up, and, you know, like for instance in you know, the carpet, you know, and I did this last night, but, you know, where you see crumbs and stuff, then I'll take the Tornador and go and the black will, you know, get it out or agitate it. But the Classic will, like I said, it's just got this pulling effect. And so performance wise, you know, and I'm just using formats as an example, was a huge noticeable difference. You know, just as big as that headliner in there, if not bigger, really. And you know, the headliner, it's not pulling a bunch of stuff out like it does with formats, or has. And that was one of the things that right there, you know, was obvious to me, that this does something that just doesn't do. And it makes sense to me. Maybe it'll make sense to you, maybe it won't. Like I said, there's you know, gonna be people that I'm sure will leave down the comments and say that I'm wrong, and that the black is better all day. And, you know, I just wonder, because I still don't think there's any videos, but there could be, of someone doing a direct comparison like I have done. And I'll probably make a separate video actually showing them in action. But, you know, I just wonder if those people that are saying the black is better all day, I'll be honest with you, I would suspect that they haven't owned a Classic and they went straight to the black. And I almost did that, and it's logical, because if the black's supposed to be better than the Classic, why would you get the Classic? I mean, the black is more expensive, but, you know, according to their advertisement, it should be worth it. So I almost did that. I almost made that mistake. And but I, just out of curiosity, I wanted to get the Classic and see for myself. And so I'm glad I did. I just think that the vast majority of people that will argue and say the black is better, either they have never owned a Classic, or, you know, some people just, you know, if the advertisement says this is how it is, then, you know, oh, what's it called? The, I'm trying to think, like with medications, if you give somebody a sugar pill and they, you know, in their mind, they'll act, or they'll think that it was the real thing. They'll start acting like that. Somebody leave it down in the comments. I'm drawing a blank on what that's called, that effect. But basically, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is with the black, is that, you know, maybe these people just think that the black is better. I'll say one thing that I do like about the black that's really cool is the sound that it makes. You know, when you're on the trigger, the sound that this makes versus that. But like I said, this is, at the end of the day, it comes down to performance for me. That's, you know, just sound. But this one sounds like meaner. It sounds, you know, like I said, I'll probably come out with another video and you'll get to hear that. But it just sounds, you know, meaner. It sounds like it's going to do more work. I just like the way it sounds versus the Classic. It, you know, it doesn't sound like it's going to outperform this one, but it does, and it has every single time. And you know, I could say the same. Like, you know, this is actually the third Tornador Black that I've owned, because I had one in the last video. I got the first one, tested it out. I thought that it was defective. It had to be. Sent it back. Got another one sent to me. That one was the same thing. And so now this is like over a year later, and from a different seller. And I believe that this is the real deal. This is not a knockoff. It's got the patent engraved in the, you know, weighted thing in there. But anyways, I think this is the real deal, and it's performing just the same as the other two that I had. They have all been consistent. They've all performed the same. And so, you know, if somebody was to say, hey, I've owned the Classic and then got the Black, and the Black is definitely better, then the only thing I could say there is, it's got to be possible that maybe you got a defective Classic. Because I certainly, you know, wanted to say that I didn't want to just try one and say, oh, it's, you know, it's garbage. I wanted to get at least another one, and then here a year and a half later, I obviously did it again. You know, just was tempted to do it again and see maybe there was something I missed. You know, yes, I did get, this is a bigger compressor, and so I just wanted to try it again. But all three of them that I've had have been the same. It's been consistent, so I don't believe that I've gotten three defective ones. And you know, I think that this Classic just, you know, works the way that it was designed to and that it should. But I could definitely see it being, you know, that somebody could easily get one of these that was defective, as far as, because like I said, these are this weighted tube, they are put in very specific locations. There's two more back in there, and so it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't take much at all for you know, a defect in the weight to completely affect you know, its performance. So, and you know, with this one, as far as its bearing and everything in there, same thing. And so that's why I wanted to get more than one, because, you know, same thing. This could a small defect, you know, a bearing being bad could completely affect its performance. But like I said, all of them have been the same. And then, like I said, I wanted to put a new tube and cone on this for this comparison, to make it, you know, more like new, because pretty much everything else is all good. These are the only things that really have wear and tear that you have to replace. But I can tell you that this performs, even after putting this new weighted tube and cone on. It really doesn't perform any different than the other cone that had the stainless steel lining and the original weighted tube on there. It really doesn't perform really any different. And so, point being there is, if you get this cone, you know, pretty much immediately, and put that on instead of the plastic one that it comes with, that weighted tube is going to last you a lot longer, and it's going to perform better as well. It's less resistance. But so yeah, I'm seeing this video is already almost 20 minutes long, so I didn't mean for it to be that long, and so I'm probably going to come out with a part 2, kind of showing them, you know, in action in situations. But I'm gonna post this video first, and so I really would like to see, you know, some feedback for y'all to leave down in the comments, your thoughts, and, you know, let me know, you know, everything that I've touched on, and even that I haven't. You know, like I said, I would love to be wrong about the black, but I really don't at this point now I don't think that I've gotten defective ones, and I think this is just how it is. So and like I said, the compressor now is enough. So let me know down in the comments what y'all think. You know, there was definitely people that left comments on the old video saying, you know, thanking me for doing that video, because like I said, I'm pretty sure I was the only one that did a direct comparison of the two at the same time. And so they said, you know, thanks, now I'm going to get the Classic, which like I said, at least it was, I'd imagine it still is cheaper than the black. Matter of fact, I think even with getting that cone, because I think that's only about 20 bucks on Amazon, even with getting that cone, you know, if you buy it at the same time and make that upgrade, I believe it's still cheaper than the black. But even if it's the same, like I said, this one, the Classic, just in my opinion and in all my testing, just outperforms it in multiple different ways. So, you know, once again, I just keep going back to the Classic. But, you know, like I said, it's sad, but pretty much the only thing that I like about the black over the Classic still is the sound of it. So, you know, that's a non-issue. So if you are, hopefully, you know, if you are someone that, you know, you're debating between the two, hopefully between this video and maybe the next one that I make, this will help you to not save money. Because like I said, even if the Classic with that cone was slightly more than the black, I would still tell you it's worth it all day long, because this one it noticeably is better than the black. Like I said, I'd love to be wrong about that, but at this point I don't believe I am, and I would not make a video suggesting to anyone to get the Classic over the black, just, you know, for the sake of being different or making a video, or none of that. You know, I'm doing it because I hope that it helps someone, because, you know, I looked for videos before I went and made the decision to get one or the other. And like I said, I did end up getting both, thankfully. But I very well almost went with the black. And the videos that I was watching, though, I noticed that, because I asked multiple of them, that they never owned a Classic. They just went straight to the black. And so, you know what I mean? If you've never had the Classic, if you've never compared the two side by side in different situations, you know, you don't know. Then you're just assuming. So anyways, y'all leave me some comments down there, and hey, if y'all don't mind, hit that thumbs up button for me. You know, especially to my subscribers, because I appreciate all y'all. Start hitting that thumbs up button, because that does help me out. But till the next one, guys, y'all either be good or be good at it.